Clavicular is an interesting character because despite being one of the most prominent figures in the red pill community, he's not really a raving misogynist in the way that all of the previous red pill figures have been. In fact, believe it or not, he's started to get pretty popular with women, particularly femcels as of late, because a few of his clips have gone viral where he gives his opinion on women's issues in the dating world, and particularly the femcel crowd hears it and goes, wait, this guy's actually pretty based. So it's weird. It's weird to see that recently Clavicular has exploded in popularity, not just because of how many young men have fallen into his audience, but how many women are now supporting him. In fact, it's not uncommon to see a lot of left-leaning women expressing sympathy for the guy, like wishing him well, hoping that somebody who cares about him comes along and gets him out of the situation. So unlike most red pill influencers, Clavicular even garners positive views and sympathy from feminists in a lot of cases once they actually hear what he has to say. And that's kind of weird, isn't it? Like, you don't really expect that from one of these red pill guys. But that aside, we'll get into that in a little bit because I do want to talk about that. Clavicular's back in the news because last night, bro overdosed. He was live streaming at a club in Miami, and I don't know what he OD'd on, but he OD'd. Here we got the news video about it.
We're working to learn how controversial influencer Clavicular is doing. Last night, he was rushed to the hospital in Miami after a suspected overdose. And here's a really wild part about all this. It apparently happened during one of his live streams there in Brickell. This is video of the aftermath as he was being carried away for medical help. CBS News Miami's Bree Buckley is your reporter in Brickell this morning with what we know so far.
The influencer was on a live stream from a spot here in Brickell when this all happened. And we do know that Miami Fire responded to the corner of 9th Street and South Miami Avenue for a possible overdose of a 20-year-old. A source close to Clavicular tells CBS News he's suspected to have had an overdose. This is the video of his live stream last night, which is what was concerning to some of his hundreds of thousands of followers. Many said
He's methed up. I'm gonna be honest, a lot of people online have absolutely zero drug education, and they very confidently state things that if you know even a little sound silly, because this does not look like a guy who's high on uppers to me right now. Like, also ODing on uppers is it's a thing, like, don't get me wrong, but you gotta go crazy with that. What seems like could have happened is maybe he was roofied or took a pill. This seems like usually people OD on downers, because that's the kind of stuff you can mismeasure by like a very small amount and overdose on, right? Like, that's at least my understanding. And he looks like tired and run down. Like, he looks more like he's on an opiate or something right now. He said he's done meth, but I really ain't familiar with drugs. Yeah, everyone knows he does meth and he does Adderall, but like, do you think those are the only drugs he's doing? Because, man, if he OD'd on meth, he would be jittery. He would be seizing up on the ground right now, I feel like. Isn't that what a meth overdose looks like? Like, coke and meth overdose are basically like heart attacks. And then, like, downer overdoses are like, isn't it like the blood pressure drops so much that they collapse, faint, and their heart stops from, like, slowing to nothing?
What was concerning to some of his hundreds of thousands of followers. Many said he seemed out of it, and the other men in the video with him looked concerned, and the video abruptly ended. I want to talk more about his reach.
Nah, he's acting roofied, bro. What the fuck? What? This is not like Adderall or meth OD, dog. He's acting like he got slipped something in his drink, low-key.
The other men in the video with him looked concerned.
Like, he's on something else. He's not on meth or Adderall. No, that's not how people act when they're on that shit. Nah.
And the video abruptly ended. I want to talk more about his reach and why he's so influential to a specific group of young men. Clavicular, whose real name is Braden Peters, is known for a popular trend called looksmaxxing, where he tries to maximize attractiveness in extreme ways. We don't know what caused this overdose, but he has been open about drug use, specifically using meth to lose weight. He has been in hot water before. He was arrested last month in Fort Lauderdale for a battery charge. He was also arrested in Scottsdale, Arizona earlier this year for suspicion of drug possession. Now again,
I think overdose might not even be the right assumption, if I'm being honest. It's very possible. This is a guy who abuses his body immensely. He's like the horseshoe reverse end of morbid obesity. Like, his body is being put through the ringer just as bad as a guy who is, like, morbidly obese, basically. He is spending his teens and early 20s destroying his body irreversibly by overloading on testosterone and peptides so that he can get a physique. He could easily get natty if he started in his late teens, started working out as consistently as he does, and did it for a decade or more. He would have all the gains he has natty. And instead, he's ruining his body and causing an immense amount of damage in a lot of different areas, both aesthetic and functional, with his organs, that you shouldn't be doing at that age. Like, I'm not going to shame people for taking peptides or steroids if that's what they want to do, but if you're going to take them at like 50, bro. Like, take them when your body isn't capable of getting jacked anymore from your hard work because you're not producing what you need to be producing. That's when you get on the TRT and the peptides and stuff. At that point, you're old enough that the consequences might not last that long for you, or maybe you don't care, you know? Like, wait till you're old enough that you need them, right? If that's the body you're trying to go for. That would be my advice. But, man, this kid ruining his body with these anabolic steroids at such a young age cannot help. On top of that, we know he's using methamphetamine to destroy his appetite so he won't want to eat so that he can lose weight. And dude, if he's trying to shave himself down percent by percent on that body fat, because as I don't know if any, for guys or for the girls in chat, I'll tell you this, guys have this like last 15 to 20% of body fat that is all stored in the stomach. And in order to get those abs to show, you've got to get your body fat percentage down to a literally unhealthy level. And it's not safe to maintain long term. The healthiest way to have abs is to have them for like the summer, you know, and then, you know, let your body fat come back a little bit during fall and winter, and then start cutting going into spring and summer. But you don't want to keep that weight off permanently, because to have showing abs, you got to get to a pretty dangerous body fat percentage to maintain long term. And Clavicular does that, and he uses drugs to do it. He's maintained what looks to me like somewhere in the 16 to 18% body fat range for as long as I've known of him, and he uses drugs to do it. This is the kind of thing that sends men to the hospital. When they're just walking down the street, suddenly they collapse and they have to go to the hospital because their body fat percentage is so low, they literally can't make enough energy anymore for them to stay conscious. Exactly, people need to realize abs are a sign of dangerously low body fat. Well, it's not like... I guess I'm just letting, like, people... if you're a woman in chat, I guess I should... Or if guys and women in chat should know, like, for you to have showing abs, I mean, you can have a lot of muscle mass in your abs, but for them to show, you have to decrease your body fat to the point where the last fat storage area on your body starts depleting, and the last place that guys lose fat is their stomach. And to make that stomach fat go away, you've got to lose weight till your face loses weight, till your neck loses weight, till your arms look skinnier, till your shoulders look skinnier, everything, even your ribs got to be showing a little bit, and then the stomach fat starts to go away, and that's when you can start to see abs. It's at an unhealthy body fat percentage for human function long term, and that could very well be what did it for Clavicular.
Details in this story are limited. We are working to learn more. Stick with us as we find out more. In Brickell, Bree Buckley, CBS News, Miami.
Damn. Well, pretty unfortunate for Clavicular, but you know what's not? The fact that he has been going through a massive media campaign. He's been getting interviewed left and right by big outlets. Most recently, he got interviewed by 60 Minutes Australia. Do you come from the land down under, where women glow and men plunder? Sorry, I might get copyright claimed for how accurate that was performance-wise, but I thought we'd go ahead and give a watch to this 60 Minutes Australia interview, specifically a quote he says here that had so many women, particularly the femcel community, go, he's right. Like that it was really funny how many of the tweets were just, oh my god, he's right. So let's watch.
All good? Ready to go? Great. Okay, no worries. Well, Clavicular, thanks for chatting to me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
What do I call you? That's my first question.
You could go with Clav.
Do you go by Braden anymore?
Haven't heard that one in a while.
Why not?
I would just say that I kind of like to keep my personal identity a little bit, not necessarily private, because pretty much all my information is doxed out there, but it's sort of a new era in my life with all of the content I'm doing, so it doesn't even really feel like when I hear that name anymore that it resonates almost in a way.
It's interesting you say that, because the fact that your life's changed is putting it rather lightly, isn't it? Are you a different person in your personal life than the person we see streaming?
Just sort of, kind of, like, with all of the relevancy and just the fact that I can't even really go outside anymore without like security teams and stuff. No, it's a different lifestyle, but I'd say I'm generally the same person. Just a different mission, I guess you could say.
What is your mission?
Clavicular got hospital mogged after cortisol spike. Real! In all seriousness, though, I guess I'm just now realizing the, women being attracted to guys with showing abs is kind of the same as guys being attracted to women whose ribs you can see. It's people being attracted to the opposite sex when they've starved themselves to a point of an unhealthy state. And it's toxic, I would argue, on both sides. We're real feminism here in the Xander Hall stream.
I think that young men are arguably living in the worst dating market that has ever existed, with how bad hypergamy is, with a lot of the tendencies of modern women. So I would say it's kind of my mission to not only raise awareness to this, but sort of bring about a solution instead of just the typical red pill.
Big clue on what his body fat percentage is, by the way, is the fact that maybe he's flexing right now, but honestly, he might not be, and you can still see all of his veins bulging out through his, not even just through his forearm, because, I've got a fair amount of vein poppage through my forearm, but his upper arm, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, around his biceps and stuff, normally you got to get a pump for veins to be showing, or you have to be dangerously low body fat, which is very impressive, make no mistake. He's using peptides, so it's easier, but it's also really dangerous, and he might have just straight up conked out in that club because his body can't make enough energy.
Cleaning, and that sort of thing that you see.
I knew this would happen. I'm struggling to understand exactly what you mean by any of that. What is your opinion of women?
What is my personal opinion of women? Well, I don't really think that's even relevant to the point I just made. I would say that it's all pretty statistically backed, right? So we take a look at all the stats that are released by the online dating apps, and how the bottom 80% of women are going for the top 20% of the profiles on there. So even that's enough to kind of justify that hypergamy is a real thing. And that there is
all of their premises are based on dating apps, though I will say, man, it's hard to argue that these statistics aren't more relevant today in the dating world for people when you consider the fact that so much of dating now is done online and through dating apps. Man, it is getting increasingly uncommon to find non-online relationships among Gen Z in particular. And the world of the internet, internet dating these days is more or less the same as a dating website. The same statistics probably bear themselves out as well. So as much as I used to dunk on this stat because it so clearly pulls from sites that are meant to be centered around vain hookups, man, the statistics suggest that most of Gen Z dating is happening on those sites now, so that response is kind of irrelevant now, because the Gen Z people aren't dating or meeting people outside of dating apps anymore. Dating apps are their dating life.
Something going on that's horribly wrong with society.
What do you think that is?
Well, it's like I just said, it's female hypergamy.
To the uninitiated, and
Oh my god, E-Man, you're so right for this. I really hate how the red pill shit has infected the minds of teenagers who don't know any better. It's literally turning young boys into hateful losers. You know what it's also doing? It's making a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah, my lighting is pretty dark. I need to turn up my gain. It's making a self-fulfilling prophecy. The red pill shit literally wasn't real until they made it real. Some people in chat will probably disagree that it's ever been real or has been made real, but I'm saying this now. So much of the red pill shit that was not true when they started saying it and has almost become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know? Like, they made it a real thing. Like, I don't know how better to put it. It genuinely feels like a psyop.
let's be honest, probably the rather confused among us. Can you explain to me what
They psyoped young men into being so scared of dating that they opt out and created a strong enough statistical difference that it got reported on, and that further snowballed into, like, men have been told, Gen Z men have been told so much that they're lonely, they're the loneliest generation, that they're believing it and owning it as like a point of identity, as like an undeniable truth, an immutable reality.
Maxing is for you and what it does for you.
Looksmaxxing is just another form of self-improvement that is a little bit more holistic, I guess you could say, than the traditional self-improvement that was usually just, you know, physical fitness and, you know, athletic activities, whatever sort of was in the mainstream in, you know, the early 2000s, 2010s. You typically just see on forums a lot about bodybuilding, but now it's evolved a little bit further from that, and people are taking mind the face, you know, so that's one of the most important distinctions.
What lengths are you going to?
What lengths have I gone to? Well, I mean, I'd say I've pretty much tried it all. I haven't had plastic surgery, but just about everything else in terms of biohacking, right? So you can really do a lot for your looks with simple pharmaceutical intervention, right? So stuff like TRT, you know, stuff like...
It's not self-improvement because it hasn't worked on his personality. He has none. It depends on your perspective, right? So, being a Becker, I'm assuming you're a normal person and also a woman. So, putting yourself in the perspective of like a deranged teenage hormonal male might be a little bit difficult. But I will tell you this. A lot of these young guys have been so thoroughly brainwashed into believing that women are soulless and have a very small list of things they want to see in a man, and all of them are vain and all of them are indicative of low moral character. They've convinced so many young men of this that young men, as an almost protest response, either decide A, to opt out of dating, or B, to become players, to try and do what Clavicular does, which is looks max, with no goal of getting a long-term relationship. That's not what these guys are after. These guys have been convinced that long-term relationships aren't worth having. They've been convinced that women are so awful that if you give them the trust and closeness of a long-term relationship, they'll hurt you. Young men are afraid of going any further than meaningless hookup sex with women. And if they can't get that meaningless hookup sex with women, then they feel like everything is unfair. You know? Even everything's unfair to them in that case, right? And it's all because they've decided to write off the idea of a relationship as asking for trouble, right? All these relationship, you know, gold digger disaster stories get blown up, and these young men hear it and they're like, oh my god, I can't let this be like me. I can't end up like this.
Taking an aromatase inhibitor so that your growth plates stay open longer. All these sort of things, if done properly at certain parts of your life, you know, specifically.
Yeah, these guys are trying to attract the very hoes that they have been brainwashed into believing that every woman is. The fact is, the absolute fact is, we have known for decades, okay, And call me not woke or whatever if you want. Call me misogynistic for saying this, but it's true for men and women. There are hoes and there are housewives. Some men are hoes, some men are housewives. Some women are hoes, some women are housewives. These red pill retards have managed to muddy the water so much they've convinced a generation of men that there's no distinction, that all women are hoes, and that trying to make any woman into a housewife is trying to make a hoe into a housewife. Like, the fact is, there are a lot of different people with a lot of different obligations, preferences, attractions, and objectives in life, and you can't speak for every woman and not be kind of just a grifter. Anyone who claims they can speak for an entire group is bullshitting you.
During puberty, you really can sort of overcome a lot of your genetic limits, I guess you could call it.
You promote what some would consider rather extreme methods, though. Can you take me through in detail what your routine is and what you've done from a young age?
Well, my current routine, just run you through sort of a list of like my stack, my protocol. That would take a little while. I mean, it's like, do you want me to send you a PDF? Because it's just, a lot of people ask me that question, and like I don't really think they realize like how long it would take for me to just run through a list of like 1 million pharmaceuticals. So let's just say it's a lot of biohacking, and I wouldn't really want to
biohacking. I love that
say
term.
things without specifying what they are, what they do, the risks that come with them. Because if people just come on and watch this interview and see this crazy stack of pharmaceuticals, they might assume that you're crazy for one, and also if they try to replicate that without a really comprehensive knowledge on like how to use them properly, how to mitigate side effects, it could actually do them a lot of harm.
Oh, well, let me ask you this, Ian. Can we run through a few things? When did you start taking testosterone?
When I was 14 years old.
14 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Mind you, by the way, like from like 12, I would say from like 13 to 24, the average male is producing so much testosterone, it's more than enough for the sake of bodybuilding. The whole point, the reason why TRT exists for cis men is for older cis men that are in their 40s and 50s that are still into having an active lifestyle, who want to be able to build muscle and grow further. But because their body has started naturally producing less testosterone, and on top of that, a big part of getting older, my boomers in the chat can attest to this, is healing gets slower. When you're young, doesn't matter what the injury is, you bounce back from it fucking fast. And every year you get older, injuries take longer to heal. Hell, just stubbing your toe takes longer to stop hurting the older you get. And one of the big benefits of taking some anabolic steroids is that it actually like kickstarts your body's recovery, and you start healing from injuries faster, most notably strain after workouts. It gets you back into that, like, obviously I'm not older, so I can't speak from experience, but in my life, when I work out, like a day later, I could probably work out again and be fine. At the very most, a gap between workouts, and I'm good to go. I'm good to go for another one. I've recovered. I'm ready. I'm good. And that's because my recovery period at this age, very short. It's supposed to be very short. Your body, the normal male body, makes it very short. As you get older, much less so. And that's when you maybe want to start taking something like that, if that's the kind of lifestyle you live. And that's a big if, that's the kind of lifestyle you want to live. Not when you're 14 and your body is producing enough to make a bull elephant smash through a wall. That's a lot of testosterone, dog. You already have plenty.
What possessed me to start doing that? Well, I would say that one of the main reasons I started was a lot of people on forums and were sort of talking about this. And just from the objective point of view that there's no reason for me to go to the gym and work out in any way other than the most efficient one, and that was with anabolic steroids. So it's sort of like a cheat code, and that's how I thought about it.
What about bone smashing? I've heard you speak about that. What does that involve?
Well, it's exactly how it sounds. I mean,
who remembers Z's? Hypers in chat if Z's raises a bell. ZYZZ. Dude. Clavicular is just Z's too when you think about it. Let me see. Wikipedia, Z's. This is a guy. He died in 2011. So most of you guys will probably have no idea who this dude is. But this guy was the original looksmaxxer. Z's, better known as Z's, was an Australian bodybuilder and model. He established a cult following after posting videos of himself on YouTube starting in 2007. On the 5th of August 2011, while on holiday in Thailand, Shaversheen suffered a heart attack and died at the age of 22. Do you know why he died of a heart attack? Because he took a shitload of steroids. In fact, he did and does exactly what Clavicular does. There's no doubt in my mind that this guy inspired Clavicular. I don't think Clav will make it to 25. I don't. This guy didn't make it to 23. I don't think Clav will make it to 25. Yeah. Before becoming a bodybuilder, he did a bunch of stuff. He suffered a heart attack in a sauna while on vacation in Pattaya. He was taken to the hospital where doctors were unable to revive him. His family and friends placed news of his death on Facebook. His death was confirmed on 9th of August 2011 by the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, or DFAT. An autopsy revealed a previously undiagnosed congenital heart defect and cardiomegaly, which triggered cardiac arrest. His family stated he had shown several minor symptoms in the few months leading up to August 2011, including high blood pressure and occasional shortness of breath. He had a family history of heart problems, and you never know. Like, maybe your family has a history of heart problems, and you have some heart problems that aren't known of, and you take these drugs, and you sign your death warrant at a ridiculously young age. This is a guy who is also taking anabolic steroids from a young age, like 13 or 14, about the same age as Clav. I'm not joking when I say this guy is digging his own grave. This is not a guy who's gonna die like, 10 years from now, one day, this guy's gonna die real young. I mean, no, this guy might not make it to next year.
You're just creating microfractures in specific areas of your face, and the idea behind it comes from Wolff's Law, right? So when you break down a bone, it goes back stronger. So you're intentionally creating these traumas, typically on your cheekbones, your chin, wherever, in order to grow your bones.
And
when I was like 15, I learned that bones heal back stronger than they were before they broke, and I got the idea of creating a machine that smashes like every limb bone in your body and then sets them so it'll heal, and then you cast up, and then you just repeatedly go through the bone smashing machine and gain infinite bone strength. Now, I was 15 when I came up with this idea, and, it's a pretty dumb idea, I now know. Clavicular seems to be 20-something now and still believes in the bone-smashing machine for further bone strength idea, the Wolverine machine.
Meth. I've seen you say you take meth. Do you do that for your appearance?
Not anymore, but I have previously, yeah.
Why would you do that? Why?
Stimulants suppress your appetite, and that is a stimulant with a very long half-life, meaning the suppression of your appetite lasts the entire day.
Longer than the high.
So to go back one, just to clarify, you take a blunt instrument to your face and repeatedly hit it. What does that achieve?
I'll typically use my fist.
What do you get out of that? That just sounds like you're doing damage to yourself.
I'm so sorry for my lighting, guys. It's nighttime outside, and I don't have a light that shines from behind my monitors. I usually just use the sun, and it's late, so sorry, guys.
Well, I just explained it, right? So you're creating microfractures in specific parts of your face, like typically your cheekbones, and according to Wolff's Law, it'll grow back stronger and bigger, so you're hypertrophying your bones.
Doctors and medical experts will listen to what you say and shake their head and go, you're crazy for doing that, and it sends a horrible message. Do you deny that?
I don't really think that they would. And I really haven't seen too many people who have actually looked into my content and the specifics beyond just reporter headlines and out of context clips, with people really disagreeing with my actual unironic looksmaxxing advice. Now, obviously with me being a full-time streamer, sometimes, jokes are made or recreational, things will be used that don't pertain to looksmaxxing, and that could sort of be thrown into the loop. But in terms of like all these peptides and that kind of thing, I don't really think.
What I love about Clavicular is whenever he gets brought on for an interview, he does not want to talk about himself. He does not want to talk about his streaming career or his popularity or people following him, which is what every reporter wants to interview him about, because it's what everyone is actually interested in. Like all the older people outside of Gen Z who hear about this Clavicular guy influencing a generation of young men, and they're like, what is this guy's fucking deal? What does he even think about all this? He just wants to talk about looks. All he wants to talk about. Yeah, he has. Oh, it's muted? Oh, yeah, I know why it's muted. My audio disconnected for no reason for a second and then reconnected, so I have to... Yeah, sorry about that.
Do comprehensive research, you know how to mitigate these side effects. Like testosterone could cause your hair to fall out, but if you take something like dutasteride, which is a 5-AR inhibitor, then you're not going to have any issues with that in most cases.
I'm pretty sure all the hair stimulant stuff fucks with your heart, by the way. Even more than the peptides might.
I've heard you describe yourself as infertile. Is that true?
I haven't officially been tested, but I've just been kind of going based on my anecdotal experiences. But yes, that is extremely likely due to the fact that...
Is your cum clear?
That I've been suppressed for a very long time because of my exogenous hormone usage.
Then why on earth is it worth it?
He doesn't want to have kids or a family?
Well, first of all, that's honestly like a pretty mog side effect if you think about it, due to the fact that it's extremely easy to restart your fertility with fertility drugs like HMG and HCG.
Mog.
This guy believes in the biohacking.
Mogging. What do you mean by that?
In that context, I just mean it's awesome. It's good.
Watching your content is like...
The first time I ever saw the word mogged used was years before Clavicular was ever relevant, and it was in a tweet where some, like, big booty sex worker lady went viral for posting an image of herself twerking on a hiking trail, and she captioned it, "I ass-mogged these Zoomers while I was hiking today." And basically... the idea was that she was ass-mogging them, and that was the first ever usage I saw of that term, and it was years before Clavicular ever became viral. And the irony of me ever having seen that word initially having been used by a woman, and then Clavicular popularizes it to the point that it's at now, is giga ironic. Giga irony, bro.
Learning another language sometimes. You talk about ascending, mogging. Can you explain to me what that means?
Ascending is just getting better looking, so looksmaxxing. And mogging, I guess there's sort of a lot of contexts that it could be used in. Like, for example, I just said it's a mog side effect, but generally has a positive meaning behind it. So you could mog someone, and you could height mog them, you could be taller. So it typically means like outshining someone in some regard.
Are you mugging me right now?
Well, in what metric?
Any?
Status mogging.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, like I might be status mogging you, maybe. I don't know. You're fine. Like potentially, money mogging. Who's to say, right? I don't know. But like, those are different.
Someone tweeted that when Clavicular gets interviewed, he comes off as a kid who's been caught doing something wrong and has been taken to the principal's office and asked to explain themselves. And so they just go into a completely, like, disaffected, simple tone and explain, like, as I guess charitably as possible, their their reasoning behind everything. It reminds me a lot of that, and I agree with that tweet. I thought that tweet hit the nail right on the head, if you ask me. I think we've seen enough. I really did want to talk, though, about, like, the more recent popularity of Clavicular, especially with women. And I want to find a particular quote or a particular clip from this interview in relation to that, because you might be surprised. He's getting popular with the ladies now, not just the dudes. Am I not going to be able to find this clip? Of course not. Never mind.